think Bitcoin has gone into this correction because some of the frothier stuff started moving a little bit too much.
Cowen begins by pointing out a striking seasonal tendency. Bitcoin often bottoms out in September, especially during bull markets. He cites 2017 and 2020 as examples. In both cases, Bitcoin found a low in September before rallying hard into year-end. Even more interesting, the same pattern tends to show up in Bitcoin dominance, which measures BTC's market share relative to all other cryptocurrencies. Historically, September has been a low point for dominance, and October has been the strongest month on average. Please take a little time to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on post notifications for more videos like this. You can also check out our other videos on cryptocurrencies and the overall digital asset space, and drop your comments and observations in the comment section below. Everything you do helps with the YouTube algorithm and immensely contributes to the channel's growth. Thanks, and enjoy the video.
Dominance bottoms out in September, especially in bull markets. I mean, even in 2020, it bottomed out at like basically the exact same level, right? The exact same level, and also it found a low in like the month of September. In 2017, you can see it carved out a low in the month of September, and then it rallied all the way back up, you know, to like high 60%. Last cycle, it rallied into the 70% range. All I'm saying is a lot of people want dominance to just go down now. What I'm saying is it's going to go up first before it goes down, right? So I think path is important. And so that's what I think people should watch for. So what I'm looking for confluence of my views, and it's already playing out. What I was looking for is that as Bitcoin corrects, you want to see Bitcoin dominance go up. And you're seeing that, right? Like Bitcoin is corrected. You're seeing Bitcoin dominance go up. I don't know exactly where the low is going to be, but whenever Bitcoin catches a bid and starts going back up, dominance should continue to go back up with it. Okay, so that's what I'm looking for. As long as that plays out, then I still feel comfortable, you know, with the views I've expressed. As far as the exact levels for dominance, I don't even necessarily have a specific level in mind. It's more of a time thing. I think Bitcoin dominance is going to go up until early November. Okay, it could get a brief correction in November and then maybe go up again. But I think that it makes sense to be bullish on Bitcoin dominance for the rest of September and all of October. In fact, October, since you were talking about, you know, like the best or the worst day of the year for Bitcoin was what, like September 26th? The best month for Bitcoin dominance on average, right, on average, is October. And it's not even close. Like, it's not even close. On average, Bitcoin dominance goes up 5% in October. Now, there's a big standard deviation there, so it doesn't necessarily have to go up. But you could argue that to within one standard deviation, Bitcoin dominance, you know, 4.8% plus or minus 5.8. So to the downside, you're looking at like worst case scenario. I mean, obviously, worst case scenario is a lot worse than what I'm going to say, but like realistically, to within one standard deviation, the odds are that Bitcoin dominance, it could drop 1%, but it could also go up as high as 10.6%. Okay, so if you were to look at that spread, let's say down 1% would still put it at 58, but up 10% would put it basically back near the prior highs. You know, and a lot of the prior bull markets, when they finished, you saw Bitcoin dominance getting that final rally kind of into the end of the year. And so I think there's a really good chance you're going to see Bitcoin dominance get one final rally for the cycle for the next, let's call it 6 weeks.
Makes sense. And then only after there will be a correction, hence altcoin season, right? Like you said.
Right. So that's how you set alt season up, is to get a rally by Bitcoin where dominance goes up and people really capitulate their alts. And then you could actually get it. But again, there is no guarantee. I mean, a lot of what I said has to play out for me to even develop the alt season view. I've faded the alt season view because I know that Bitcoin leads the bull market, and if you're calling for alt season in the pre-halving year and in the halving year and in the first half of the post-halving year, those people are I think right now we are experiencing general seasonal weakness by Bitcoin. It's very common around, you know, sort of late Q3 to get this weakness. So it makes a lot of sense. one of the things, I don't know if I mentioned it on the last time we did a video or not, but one of the things that it felt like we needed was for Ethereum to hit all-time highs for the cycle to feel more complete. Now, it did that. It hit new all-time highs since we last spoke, and it did so after Ethereum went home. But I still think there's a little bit more left in the tank for Ethereum, and so if there's more left in the tank for Ethereum, I think there's probably a little bit more left for Bitcoin. We'll see. But back in April, we were talking when Ethereum was down here, right? And now Ethereum has run to new all-time highs. But on the first approach, it made sense to assume we would be rejected by it. And just because you have all the buyers from over here that are gonna want to break even, right? They're done waiting. They need to get out. They have other things to worry about. But right now, I mean, I think Bitcoin has gone into this correction because some of the frothier stuff started moving a little bit too much, and you're likely going to witness Ethereum check in here with its 21-week EMA, and then after that, it should go to new all-time highs. What I would say generally is that as we get into Q4, I think it would be prudent for people to start thinking about, the highs could actually be the high for a little while. It doesn't mean that Bitcoin won't ever go past it. It probably will next cycle, but it's just something to think about going into 2026. And so just don't become complacent. And some of the indicators, I mean, I use risk metrics and whatnot to navigate things, but some other interesting metrics to try to give you an idea of where we are in this cycle. Look at the 50-week moving average. As long as we're trending above that, then there's reasons to be optimistic. Just like back over here when we talked in April, Bitcoin held the prior cycle high. Right now we're testing the cycle's highs from back in January. But I would still say until Bitcoin gets a weekly close, 2 weekly closes, because 1 weekly close won't do it. 2 weekly closes below the 50-week moving average, then we have to accept the cycle's over. Because historically, that's always when the cycle was over, on a couple of weekly closes below that 50-week moving average. You can see this entire cycle hasn't happened, right? We've had some wicks, no weekly closes. Right now, the 50-week SMA is 99K. So it's going to be 100K, which makes it kind of easy, because I can just sit here and say to you that from starting now for the next 6 months, whenever we get 2 weekly closes below the 50-week moving average, that's probably a sign that the top is in. The final moves historically have been in Q4. Once we get into Q4, it's reasonable to start thinking about cycle tops. And by the way, when you look at the ROI from the low, that's one metric. If you measure it from the peak and you go peak to peak, you can also see we're getting kind of far into the cycle. And if you measure it from the halving, you can see that we're getting kind of far into the cycle. So I just think that it's been a great cycle for Bitcoin, even though I feel like for some people it doesn't feel like it. But it has been a good cycle. Hopefully we can finish strong. And if you don't time the top exactly, and you're wondering, if you're looking for confluence, just remember on weekly closes below the 50-week SMA, no matter where the top was, just be willing to accept the cycle's over whenever that happens.
Cowen offers a key warning. If Bitcoin dominance crashes in Q4 without a prior rally, that's a red flag. It signals a weak market structure and a pathetic alt season. On the flip side, if dominance surges first, altcoin holders may finally get the breakout they're hoping for, but only after some pain as liquidity flows back to BTC.
I mean, it's honestly not that different from what I would expect. I think the reason the cycle feels different to people is because altcoins haven't performed. But it's relevant to remind people that a lot of times the cycle is like this, right? Like Bitcoin leads the bull market, and by the time the altcoins start really outperforming Bitcoin, that's usually a sign that the cycle's over. So, I know there's been a lot of people calling for alt season and whatnot for the last few years, but you have to remember, when alt season happens, assuming that it does, when it happens, it's a sign that the cycle is likely ending, So it's one of those things where, be careful what you wish for, because if you do see Bitcoin dominance crash in Q4, I don't think it's going to crash in early Q4. I think dominance is going to go up in October, but you could see it crash a little bit later on in Q4. If that happens, that's your warning. That's your warning sign right there. that you need to get out of altcoins. You can hold Bitcoin through the bear market if you want to, and just if you want to hunker down in that. But usually when after dominance crashes, is you want to be running for the hills away from the altcoin market. So just keep that in mind. Again, I know the cycle feels different. One of the reasons the cycle feels different is because a lot of people were here last cycle, like in 2021, where altcoins were outperforming Bitcoin for like a year or something ridiculous. But we had a lot of QE and we had low rates. This cycle is structurally and fundamentally more similar to the 2017 cycle, right? It's more similar to the 2017 cycle. And in the 2017 cycle, we still saw Bitcoin dominance getting rallies even in Q4 of the post-halving year. In fact, that was when altcoins struggled a lot in October of the post-halving year, and they ended up bottoming out in like November, December, and then we had alt season. So just remember, the cycle is actually playing out pretty normally if you incorporate diminishing returns. Altcoins have not joined in on the rally in the way that people would have expected. But remember, most altcoin gains are usually concentrated within a 1 to 2 month period, and then that's it. And then people spend the next 4 years thinking that that's the norm, when it's really just something that happens like, for a month or two every 4 years. We first need to see Bitcoin convincingly bottom within the next few weeks. We need to see it rally, and we need to see Bitcoin dominance rally with it. If those things can happen, then it would pave the way for altcoins to outperform Bitcoin, sometime in the November, December timeframe. If what I said does not happen, then you have to be willing to say there might not be an alt season. But I think for now, I really do subscribe to the view of if it's not broke, don't fix it, right? If everything so far this cycle has played out like it always has, and it's hard for me to say that you can't have it. I've gotten a bad rep in the altcoin space generally because I've been pretty bullish on Bitcoin dominance for most of the cycle. Although I did think we would have this correction that we had off the 66%, but I actually think dominance is about to come surging back, and that's not a popular view right now. But the funny thing is that if dominance were to surge back, like a lot of people don't want that to happen, but that happening would increase the odds that they get an alt season that they want, right? So it's one of those things where in order for people to get what they want, like the dominance has to go back up. It has to go where they don't want it to go, right? If dominance just crashes from here without another rally by Bitcoin, it just means you're going to have a very pathetic altcoin season. It's just going to be what you've seen for the last couple of years, where maybe they go up a little bit, but it's not what anyone wants or remembers what they remember it actually being. So, and that was what I said about the ETH Bitcoin valuation back in earlier this year when we were calling for it to crash, go home, as I said. In order for the ETH maxis to see ETH Bitcoin go up, they have to watch Ethereum crash first. So that's kind of where we are with sort of an alt season. In order for that to happen, like people want, then we need to see liquidity flow back to the king for now. And if that happens, then maybe they can finally get what they want in a couple of months.
Cowen wraps up by acknowledging that this has still been a great cycle for Bitcoin, even if it doesn't feel like it to some investors. As long as you remain data-driven and flexible, you can navigate whatever comes next. He also highlights the irony that for altcoin fans to get what they want, a true alt season, the market first has to do what they don't want, send liquidity back to Bitcoin, boosting dominance. Without that setup, alt season fizzles.